Hello and welcome back. Anyway, that's what everyone said to me this week on returning from an extended hiatus in northern Spain during August. And it's what we say to you today as Season 3 of our podcast starts right now. The Valencia Property Podcast is back. No massive changes. We're still answering people's questions, writing informative blog posts and telling you about them, having discussions about what's going on in the Valencia property market, and listing great properties in and around Valencia. But we'll also be doing a few new things by bringing in more interviews with people who've made the move about their motivations and reasons for coming to Valencia, sharing with you some interviews from our 25-year anniversary event, which is happening this month in Valencia with past clients of Valencia Property, and talking about the various quirks, difficulties and joys of living in Valencia and Spain. Let's start this month with the latest news from Valencia Property, as you may have been missing updates during our summer break. We've covered a lot of these in the blog posts that we still managed to write while away on holiday, but there may be stuff you have missed. Mortgages are big in the news at the moment, as there is a new mortgage product through our partners at Mortgage Direct, allowing people to borrow against their property for renovations or borrow for renovations when applying for a mortgage, meaning you can get an extra 30% on your mortgage if you are buying a place that needs modernisation. You can read more about it in our blog post, which you can find in the show notes. But just to clarify, this is not an equity release scheme. It's for actually doing renovations, and you'll need to show what you intend to do. And while we're on the subject, let's kill some dreams and actually tell you what is required to get a mortgage in Spain. So number one, you'll need to show income. Just because you already have a lot of money doesn't mean that the banks will approve you for a mortgage. They are more likely to ask you, well, why don't you just buy the property outright? Why do you want a mortgage? So if you're planning on buying in the future and you're currently not working, make sure you set up a monthly income somehow now, by setting up a business and paying yourself each month so that next year when you apply for the mortgage, you can show income. You do this for the digital nomad visa, for example, if you haven't currently got an income. It's a good way of doing it. The other option, of course, is to apply now while you are working and not in a year's time after a sabbatical. So, for example, if you say, yeah, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to go and live in Valencia, and then at the end of that year, you ask for a mortgage, you won't get one because you've had no income. So it's probably better to buy that place now with a mortgage and then live in the place that you bought, or even just get the renovation done. Number two, 75. That's the answer, by the way. The maximum age for the end of the mortgage term. So if you're 70 plus, please don't tell us, well, I could get a 30-year mortgage in the States. Here in Spain, you can't. You'll be rejected. Basically, if you are 65 or over, you'll probably be rejected for a mortgage here. We see it as weird that in the States, with an average lifespan well below the Spanish levels of 83 plus, they'll give you a mortgage when you are 75. You see it as weird that Spanish banks put a limit of 75 for the end time of the mortgage. Number three, 30 to 35%. Is the maximum monthly payment you can afford to pay from your income according to Spanish banks. You may think you want to pay 50%, but Spanish banks won't let you. If you show 3k income, then expect the mortgage to be approved only if the monthly repayments will be less than 1,000. If you earn 6, 2. If you earn 9, 3,000, for example. Oh, by the way, 3,000 to give you a massive mortgage here. Number 4, paperwork. And likely lots of it. Get used to this idea. You will need income statements, bank statements, employment contracts, working life history if you've been living here in Spain, pay slips, a kitchen sink. You get the idea. Collect all of the paperwork early and have it ready to hand over. And don't ask why the bank needs it. They need it because you want a mortgage. And if you don't supply it, then you won't get a mortgage. Number 5, 70%. That's the maximum amount that most non-residents will be offered by a Spanish bank for buying property. You'll need to find 30% yourself. And don't forget, 15% costs here in the Valencia region. That's 10% tax, 3% agency fee, 1% notary, registry and gestor, and you should be employing an independent lawyer who will probably charge you 1%, 15 in total. The new mortgage product I talked about on the blog can cover the renovation costs now at least. Some banks may go up to 80% for certain non-residents with good profiles, but most won't. And some may only offer 60% or even 50% on rustic properties if they offer to give a mortgage for a rustic property. It's not that common. So it's best to shop around, and that's why using a broker is better than just going and approaching your own bank. So next, let's move on to a question that we're seeing more and more in the Facebook groups. Here it is.
I've been on Idealista and contacted some agents, but where will I find stuff not listed there?
The answer is there is little for sale not listed on Idealista. Other property portals exist, by the way. There's Pisos.com, there's Fotocasa, there are various other smaller ones. But there is an agency somewhere with a network of contacts that may be able to find you that hidden gem that doesn't appear on the portals. Guess who? But there are a few good reasons why you should be using Idealista. But also, here's what to expect when you use Idealista. This is just a rough guide so that you know what to expect, because really, you expect more than what you actually get. So number 1, agents won't answer you. Number 2, you'll waste a lot of time. Number 3, you'll get a good session in training yourself in patience as nobody answers you and you get frustrated. Number 4, you'll find out that the majority of properties you want to buy either aren't for sale, have just been sold, don't exist, clickbait, can't be visited, are scams, nobody answers your mail, nobody answers your call, nobody answers your WhatsApp, or, well, I think you get the message. Number 5, and if you do get to see them, you find out the reason they are still for sale is that they're above the local fire association. It's their party place. The photos and the reality are so far apart they are in different dimensions. That the owner has just decided to raise the price. That the legality is questionable, or, well, any other number of disappointments. So take out that step and just work with us to get you into properties that interest you and match your requirements. You won't regret it. It'll save you a lot of time. It'll save you a lot of stress. On to some of our blog posts over the summer then. We started in July with possibly our most important regular feature, all about the Valencia property market. And this time the report is for the first half of 2024. So at the end of 2023, we reported that it had been a record year for sales for our company, with sales volumes up 20% on the previous year. This year so far has already equaled last year in terms of value of sales, though we are still some way away from the number of sales, with around 25% more sales required to make the same number of sales as last year. And that's not bad with half the year left. As this suggests, the value of each transaction has risen considerably. Average sale prices are up 24% this year compared to last year, where prices rose by 27%. In fact, the average sale price is up by around 54% in 2024 compared to 2022. Now, here's the thing. That doesn't mean prices have risen by 54%. It just means we're getting sales through for higher values, and there are various reasons for this. Firstly, there are hardly any lower price sales, as the lower prices no longer exist. Sales under 200,000 are just 13% of all sales, and most of them are concentrated in the first couple of months of 2024, when the last decent places available at lower prices in the city were sold. Secondly, the rush to get the golden visa before it ends has meant a lot of 500k plus sales going through in the first half of the year, and all of those clients have now got their golden visa. Next, we're attracting higher value clients via our social media and the higher profile of Valencia as a city and destination. Equally, our reputation grows and grows year on year, and therefore we grow as a company. What does it mean for those looking for property in Valencia? Well, you need to have a budget that suits what is out there in the city. We're having to turn away clients at lower budgets for the city, as there is literally nothing we can help them with, unfortunately. We'd love to, but we can't sell something that doesn't exist. You now need to be thinking of a budget of at least $250,000 in the city for anything decent. If your budget is lower, then you should be planning on being outside the city in the suburbs on the metro lines to get in and out of the city easily. There's still plenty of cheaper property around, but not in the city of Valencia itself. Have a word with us about your options and the best places to buy at different price points by booking one of our free consultation calls. You can read much more about the types of property, locations, nationalities, finance, reasons, and our client funnel in the post. And of course, the link to the post is in the show notes. But just to finish off with the question of what the market's like, it's carnage out there. It really is. You have little choice. You need to make decisions quickly. We had to tell an owner to go to hell this week as they put in so many conditions on visits and the way they wanted to sell the property to any interested client. Luckily, we're not tied to the owners or anyone in particular selling their property, and we do this to protect the interests of our buying clients, people like you, because we are a buyer's agent. In the last 3 years, prices have risen by 39% officially, according to statistics, and since 2017, that rise comes to 78%. Our average sale price in that time has risen by $120,000. Our average sale price has risen by 120% in that time, as we've been getting more high-end clients and fewer low-end investment properties are available. Our clients who bought over the last 10 years are extremely happy bunnies, or at least I think they are. Suppose I'll find out next week at our anniversary event. We're managing to find the ideal property for so many of our clients, but some people are having to go away empty-handed, and we can no longer guarantee that something will come up as prices rise and supply dwindles. It's better to make the decision now on something that satisfies over 80% of your requirements rather than waiting and hoping that a 90 to 100% property will come up. It's likely now that it won't. As we said in a post a few weeks ago, some people who didn't make the decision last year on very good properties that would have suited them perfectly now have no chance of finding what they want. Supply continues to go down. In December 2023, we reported that supply had gone down to 5,565 properties available in Valencia. That number is now exactly 4,000, having dipped below that number into the 3,000s a few weeks ago. An almost 30% reduction in 6 months. If that happens again in the next 6 months, we'll be at under 3,000 properties for sale, and with current trends in demand, it will continue to dwindle. And one more thing, the rental market is worse. At the end of the month, we wrote about our initial client meetings, which is the most important step that you can take to work hand in hand with us towards your Valencia property purchase. So how do you arrange your initial meeting with Valencia Property? Simply put, contact us and ask for a chat. You can contact us via mail, via WhatsApp, on any of our socials, or even through smoke signals if directed in the right way. What we need is the following information: your full name, how you want the call, whether you want it on WhatsApp, Skype, Zoom, in person or whatever, what you would like to discuss, the best times and days for the chat. In other words, tell us what time zone you're in, because it's different for somebody who's in Australia or Japan or the Middle East, or somebody who's in Europe, or somebody's on the west or east coast of the United States. Once we have the information, we'll contact you with details of the meeting and let's chat. It will likely be me, Graham, who contacts initially, but depending on the information given, then you may be put in contact with David, Paul, Gavin or Jess for the chat itself, especially if you're already in contact with one of them for your eventual property search. To get the most from the meeting, we need to discuss your needs, so you need to think about the following. Firstly, the timelines of when you will be here. Secondly, any questions about property you may have. Then, you might want to know more about the market situation currently. We may talk about areas where you want to buy, whether it's in the city, whether it's outside, and the areas that will suit you both in and out. We'll need to talk about financing and how you're going to do it, whether you need a mortgage or whether you don't need a mortgage. We need to talk about taxes, how much you're going to pay when you purchase. We need to talk about the family situation that you've got. Are you coming with children or are you not? We need to talk about the legal issues, about your move here. Can you come here? Which visa will you need, etc. We may need to talk about schooling. You may have children. We may need to talk about special requirements that you have. And we may need to talk about how we can contact you and keep in contact. All of these things are maybe more relevant to most people, maybe not the schooling issue for all. We're able to give advice on most of the above though. We will refer you to other people who are experts in their field for stuff such as taxes and legalities. We can answer to a certain extent, but expect to hear the sentence, "I'm no tax expert, so take this with a pinch of salt, but to know for sure, contact," and then we'll put you in touch with tax experts, specifically tailored to what your requirements are. And following up is important. Make sure that once we've finished the meeting, you keep in contact with us before your visit so we can make the best use of our time together when you get here. You'll want to come back to us with further questions. There are always questions you forget to ask on the call or that come up after the call as a result of the issues we discuss. We'll start WhatsApping back and forth with you. Yes, the verb WhatsApping exists because that's what we do. It's the major form of communication in Spain. Everyone uses WhatsApp for everything. And this will mean that by the time you come here, there will be no doubt about what needs to be done and we can get straight to work. Our next post was about the new mortgage product and it was very well received. And then we talked about what everyone wants and how much it will cost. Another wake-up call for those who are still living in a world where prices in old episodes of A Place in the Sun or House Hunters International make sense, but current prices are an unknown. And here are those wake-up calls. Expect to have to pay at least 300,000 in Valencia for a good-size apartment. I know I said earlier 250, that's for an apartment. Expect to pay 300 if you want at least 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, etc. Expect to have to pay 500,000 and above for a house that's walkable distance to the beach and within 20 minutes of Valencia. So you go north, you go south, the houses that are available are around 500,000 and above. We put one on the website recently at 600,000. We got an inquiry from someone who wanted the exact same thing, but their budget was 200,000. It's impossible. Expect to have to pay 400k and above to have a house in the best areas in the suburbs and double that if it's round a golf course. Personally, I wouldn't pay double just to overlook a golf course. Expect to find bargains in the larger inland towns within half an hour of Valencia and even better prices once you get further away from the city. But you must realise that you will have to travel, and places on the metro line and the railway lines with good connections in and out of the city are more expensive than places that don't have that contact. So for example, if you're going to use your car for everything, it doesn't really matter unless you get too far away from the city. We find that once you get more than half an hour away from the city, it's not like living in the city. Semi-detached houses, terraced row houses and townhouses are the best value, but expect to need to do work on townhouses especially because they tend to be older, they've been here for a long time because they were in the town and in need of renovation. A lot of semi-detached houses and terraced row houses outside of the towns themselves are relatively new developments, so you don't need to do that much work. And finally, apartment living nearer to the city might suit you a lot better than villa living in the middle of nowhere. It'll be a better price and it'll give you more lifestyle bang for your buck. You'll be able to walk down from your apartment and get a coffee in a local cafe, pick up something from the shops and carry it back without using your car. If you get a villa on an estate somewhere, you're going to need your car for everything. That's no problem for a lot of people, especially with electric cars coming in now. It's into the city, back out, and then you just charge up at home. So you never actually have any petrol costs. We wrote a huge lot more too on this article and a whole lot more over the month. So just pop over to the blog, keep in touch. So welcome back to the podcast. Next month, we'll be regaling you with a load of interviews with our clients about what made them come to Valencia, what they bought, and what living in Valencia is like for them. People just like you who have already made the move. We'll also be featuring a lot of these interviews on our social media channels in the next few weeks, so be sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and more. Yes, we're still on Twitter despite, well, everything. Let's brighten up your day there rather than sending you into an anger vortex of misinformation and base Nazism. So until the next one, we hope you enjoyed the first episode of our 3rd season here at the Valencia Property Podcast. Share it with your friends who might be thinking of moving here too. They'll thank you forevermore. Maybe.